in the building. All right. I need to get my my video, or not my video, but some of my other stuff going too. Let me see some. We live, we in the building. Let me see. Oh, look at that. Huh. All right. Well, I look crazy. So let's fix this. Let's fix it. Thought I would have been able to. There we go. And I probably will. I just don't have time. All right. Let me see. Let me see. Actually, can I? Oh, let me see. Oh man, I should have did a freaking test run. Ah. All right, let me see. Let me see. Let me see. Let me see. I don't think I can. I think I look crazy. And I should have did a test run.
This what it looks like.
I know.
Oh, you do?
Yes, I'm aware. I'm aware. Dang. All right, let me end this. Dang, man. Let me figure this out. Let me see. Hold up. Yeah, I messed up. I messed up crazy. Yeah, and I can't move it. All right, you know what? Let me. All right. What about this? Because I think this looks better. I think I'm good. We good? All right, there we go. Yo, I need to hire some people, man. Jesus. All right. Lord have mercy. Hold on, let me post the link. There we go. All right, now more people are coming in. All right, what's up, y'all? And it's like the usual suspects, man. It's really like people who really be riding with your boy. You know what I'm saying? So hold on, let me post this link on Twitter real quick. I know there's a much better way. Like, bro, I got a Stream Deck, and I need to configure this Stream Deck. Amazon had a crazy sale. Like a couple weeks ago on the Stream Deck, so I got it for like $80. Look, and it's just like, dog, it's just sitting here. It's not even plugged. Like, I'm tripping. But I got a light. I got a new light. I'm good. We working. We grustling. So I'm in the chat. I need an overlay. Like, I need a whole bunch of stuff before the next time I stream. So, and y'all can hear me. Y'all can hear me good. Y'all can hear me all right. So what up T Pro? What up Philip? What up Trenton? What up Jeremy? What up Bill? Everybody else in the chat. Everybody else that's tuned in but not chatting. I wish I could see who was all in here, because it might be some agents. People think I'm about to throw people under the bus, and let me tell you, that is not the case at all. I am not doing that. I don't have the energy for it. Trust me. But I am going to tell the truth. I'm going to tell the truth. So Without further ado, man, let's get started. So, man, I forgot the point I was gonna completely start on. But what we're gonna talk about tonight is deconstruction, I guess. But it's one of those things like woke is now, where like what it meant initially is completely different now. Where like, you know, if somebody listens to woke now, they may think that my song woke, they may think that like I'm on a completely different wave than what that word meant in 2018 when I initially did that song. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of formed into something totally different. And deconstruction, quote unquote, has a similar sentiment where, you know, what it is and what it is and how people take it are two totally different things. So I guess let me give you just Christian, what up? I think that's your name. If it's just Christian, I'm assuming that your name is Christian, but what up? So let me just give you guys some concept. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be sharing my experience. And the whole point of sharing my experience is because I know that my experience is not unique. And, you know, when you get that revelation that you're not crazy and things that you've experienced and things that you've experienced and things that you peeped and you saw and you were kind of made to feel like that's not what you saw, but it is what you saw. It's liberating. And so my hope is that this experience liberates others. Just to put language to things, whatever your thing looks like. You know what I'm saying? Shane, what up? So to provide some context, I gave my life to the Lord in 2005, March of 2005, I believe. And after attending various churches, I landed at a church that I helped plant for like 10 years. And I learned a lot. A lot of great things that actually I feel like led to my salvation remaining intact as I posed these questions. But I learned a lot of other things too. Unfortunately, I didn't learn as much about myself as I did once I left the space, because I left the space, and I'll get into that whole story another time. Because I have to take on some accountability for some of the things that I did. But having language to explain why I was doing those things, you know, I'm not really ashamed of it like I was. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just, I just did it. It is what it is. It happened. But I left the space in 2017, 18, one of them years. 2017, Kellis, what up? 2017, 2018, I left the space, and let me tell y'all, like, my world spinned out of control. It went crazy. Around that time, is when I met, or not met, because I already knew my wife, but it was around the time when my wife and I started dating. And, you know, for the married people that are in this group chat, like or in this live, I don't know how many of y'all know, but like I knew pretty quickly that like my wife was my wife, like really quickly. And one day we'll have that conversation. How do you know? I knew pretty quick. And so around that time, I was dating her, and you know, I knew that like this was an opportunity to connect my life with someone else, and it was scary because I had been long disconnected from that church environment, long disconnected, but I was scared because I was getting ready to make a huge transition. Like, I'm like, man, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Am I sure? Is this it? And so for a while I didn't leave because I was afraid. I felt like God was going to smite me because the Lord had shared so many prophetic words about that space, And I felt responsible to carry out that prophetic word. And in turn, it kept me in a place longer than I was supposed to be. And we're going to talk tonight about the prophetic in different ways that it's manipulated and how it's used to avoid accountability and all that stuff. I'm going to get into that. So when I finally left the space and I had a conversation with some of my other friends in church spaces, because I didn't really feel comfortable sharing that, because I had this loyalty to the space and loyalty to the leadership. Where I'm like, I don't want to, this is wrong. And the leadership could say no wrong. Everything they said was gospel. It's Jesus, Paul, leadership. You know what I'm saying? And when I left the space, I was shocked at how quickly the Lord began to move in my life. But then I began to unravel. And a lot of those times that unraveling felt like I was distant from the Lord. Like, yo, I don't feel close to God. I wasn't praying for a long time. I wasn't worshiping in a sense. And we're going to get into corporate worship and what worship means. I'm going to talk about that tonight. I'm actually going to talk about that first. I wasn't worshiping, hands lifted. I wasn't doing so many things that I was told were the things that you did to connect with God intimately. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I was just existing, and I was learning. I was going to therapy, and I was having conversations with friends who availed themselves to be accountable, that availed themselves to where I could be accountable to them. I was taking ownership and responsibility for things. I was connecting dots and figuring out why was this a trigger for me? Why was my behavior like this? Well, it's because of this. And of course, all that stuff connects back to your childhood and things that you didn't get. And I'll briefly touch on those things tonight as well. And I was angry and I was sad. And one of the things, because here's the thing, I'm not out the woods. Let me tell y'all, I am not out the woods, because this dynamic is really complicated because family is involved, and it's just all these other, like, it was a family church. So boundaries were poor because, leadership, not only are they pastors and deacons, but they're also brothers and uncles and cousins and mothers and fathers and stuff like that. So you don't know who you getting. You thinking you need your pastor and you getting a brother. You thinking you need, an auntie or a mom, and you're getting, first lady. You know what I'm saying? And because those boundaries weren't set, it was like people could just move however they wanted to move. And nobody was there to like check the space. Like, what are y'all doing? And I'm just going through reading the comments. Bill, we can absolutely link up 100%. We long overdue anyway. It's just hard to get me out the house, man. I kid you not, it's hard to get me out the house. So I lost my train of thought, but I'm just gonna get into the space. In the first space, okay, that's right. I was unraveling. I was getting angry and I felt sad. That's what I was gonna say. And one of the things that I have not reconciled is like, we always talk about, people say, oh, God is such a gentleman. God won't invade in a space where he's not welcome or whatever. And I'm like, nah, Lord, I think there were some spaces where you should have invaded. You should have been invasive, and you weren't. And I have to understand that, like, God knows more than I do, and he sees the Alpha and Omega. He sees the beginning, the end, and he sees the process and all of that stuff. But at the same time, it's like, yo, man, like, really? Like, why are you allowing this to go on? Because there's definitely some stuff I was doing, and I wasn't getting away with none of it. And I'm like, how do I not get away with that? But, like, this space gets away with this. We're going to get there. So the first thing that I want to talk about, and one of the first things that really impacted me, I'm going to share 3 things tonight, and this will be an ongoing series because there'll be a lot. And the fact that you guys are telling me like, yo, I needed this, I relate, whatever, like it's great. And if you're in this chat, if you're in here and you're a secret agent and you about to go back and tell people what I said or whatever, first ask yourself, am I lying? It's the only thing I want you to, am I lying? Because freedom will allow you to talk about things and share truths without being slanderous. And my wife reminded me of what the definition of slander was. And slander is slander when it's not true. So I could say, this girl, oh, Kellis beats his wife. You know what I'm saying? Sorry to throw you under the bus like that, Kellis. I could go on Twitter right now and say, at Cahill the First beats his wife. It's slanderous. Because as long as I've known Kellis, that's not true. That's slander. But if I'm just telling the truth about something, like this is not a character issue. You know what I'm saying? Like this is literally just me sharing my experience. So let's get into that because I'm done making caveats and all this stuff. Let's just get into it. So I'm sharing 3 things tonight that impacted my relationship with the Lord, what my experience is, and then where I'm at with it right now. So the first thing that I want to talk about is corporate worship. And Philip, I'm glad you're in this room because you've been going on a tear talking about the history of the Black church. And one thing that I respect about you is your love for the Black church and how much you esteem it. And you have the nuance to understand that like, yo, this space is not perfect, but it's provided these tools for my people to experience varying levels of freedom in Christ. And I respect that. With that said, and let me also say in that many Black Christians, Philip, such as yourself, as you shared, and many others, your experience is not unique. Many, many others were damaged by, entering into white Christian spaces. So, a lot of people, and let's just be real, this was the Christian hip hop thing. This when those artists were standing next to John Piper and doing those conferences, do you know why they were doing that? Number one, they were ashamed of their Black church experience because of the tongues and the shouting, and the white folks was like, why are they doing all that? And then also the white folks was cutting checks. They was cutting checks. They had the money. And so they get in that space and they realize that they're being tokenized, and it becomes about the gift, and really the space needs the art and the Black culture more than the Black culture needs the space. The problem is that, at least from my experience with the Black church in particular, because the church that the church I was a part of esteemed itself to be non-denominational, but it was very denominational. It was very much a blend of like Baptist, Kojic, Apostolic. I don't really know all the different denominations, but it was a Black church. It was a very Black church. Tiff, what up? And so, my experience, and when we talk about the Black church, let's talk about the different aspects of the Black church as it relates to corporate worship. So the definition of corporate worship is that everybody is together on one accord. Usually it's while music is playing, it's a designated time during church service where we're going to sing songs to God. We're going to lift our hands. We're going to cry. We're going to scream. We're going to shout. We're going to be physically expressive as to show worship and adoration and devotion to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And my experience was that was the only way you could worship. It had to be physically expressive. It had to be performative. People had to see you doing it. If you were in a corner and or if you were sitting quiet, or if you were head down, mumbling under your breath, that meant that there was a block, and you need some deliverance, and there's something that's keeping you from experiencing the full intimacy of God. And the reality of it is that there wasn't a block. I just wasn't raised that way. My father's my dog. I love my dad. That anytime I say I love my dad, like I tear up, because I love my dad. And growing up, my dad is very much like me. So if you in my space, like, I'm here. I'm physically in your space. I'm expressive. I'm talkative. I'm a whatever. Once I feel comfortable with you. If I don't know you, or if I'm in public or something, I'm very quiet. I'm to myself. And a lot of people ascribe that as being like dismissive and standoffish. And there's a little truth to that. I'm a little standoffish. I am. It is what it is. But if you get me in an intimate space, like, I'm in there. I'm with you. And my father is the same way. He wasn't very expressive emotionally. He wasn't very expressive, and that didn't show up physically. You know what I'm saying? And that's just kind of what I learned. I just kind of learned that behavior. And so when I get into a space where there's like this hyper emotion, like this emotionalism, and I'm being told to lift my hands and sing and cry out to the Lord and travail and speak in tongues and do all this stuff. It's like, yo, this is not how I'm made up. I don't do this. And so then I'm told and made to believe that this serves as a blockage to achieving true intimacy with God in this moment. And if I'm not doing this, then I'm being disobedient. Well, now I'm scared, because that's not what I want. I want to experience God. I want to be intimate with the Lord. But like, I also don't do this. I don't do this. That's not my bag. And another thing that was communicated in several different ways is other ways that people are expressive, particularly men. You know, if a sports game is on, we're yelling at the TV. My boys and I, if we're having a game night and we playing 2K, or we playing Tekken or something like that, and I win a fight or I lose a game, I'm expressive. I'm jumping around. The controller don't work. I'm mad. I'm excited because I hit a 3 at the buzzer, or I knock this dude out or whatever. And I was told, well, you getting hype about the Super Bowl, or you getting hype about WrestleMania, but you not hype about the Savior of the world. No, no, there's a difference. There is a difference between between getting excited about a sports event, about a video game, about hearing a producer sending me a beat and loving it, or hearing a new song that's fire, and expressing adoration for the Savior of the world. There's a difference. There's a different level of intimacy and connectivity that you have to achieve in order to express yourself in that way for that reason. You know what I'm saying? And so in turn, it became performative for me. So 3 reasons why corporate worship became a blockage for me, or hindrance. Number 1, like I shared, I didn't grow up that way. Number 2, I don't like gospel music. And I've shared that. I don't like Christian music. I don't like Christian hip hop. I don't like gospel music. I don't like CCM. I don't like any of it. as a genre, I've had worship moments with songs, absolutely. Because when you're in that space, and it's because because all the music ain't whack. Some of the music is incredible. You know what I'm saying? You play Fred Hammond, No Greater Love, we about to go somewhere. You know what I'm saying? You play Gunga at the time when Gunga was killing it. Late Have I Loved You? What? We're going somewhere. But overall, that wasn't how I connected with the Lord. And when I developed my prayer life, I was doing a lot. I would, like, my prayer life at the house would be like, I have to turn on like this worship music. It was like war. You know, when you're doing spiritual warfare, and I'm running through the house and I'm speaking in tongues, I'm declaring stuff and putting oil over the walls and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, what? And and I'm not going to sit up here and say that those things did not produce fruit, because they did, but I never really felt comfortable doing it. It all felt performative. This ain't me. Why do I have to do all this just to protect myself from the supernatural? Or why do I have to call down fire to get God's attention if he's a good father? My 18-month-old daughter, she's learning how to speak. Oh my gosh, she's wise beyond what she's doing at 18 months. Like she's doing what 2-year-olds are doing. And when she's like, you know, when she's crying for her mom for some milk, or if she wants to be in my space, like this morning, she was real clingy and real whiny with me. Like, I'm like, dog, you ain't got to do all that. You don't have to do all that. If you want my time and you want my presence, just come over. Of course, she's a year old. She doesn't know that. But my oldest kids know that. Man, my kids blow my phone up. My kids are in my space all the time. Dad, what are you doing? Dad, what are you doing? Because they don't have to pull down heaven to get my attention. So why do I have to do this with God? You know what I'm saying? And the third thing was that the worship experience in the church setting, it was loud. It was loud, and it was mad overwhelming. It was loud. Drums is playing, people are singing. You know, I'm a part of, like, you know, I'm a part of sound. Of course, all the rappers do sound. I was a part of sound. I'm a leader. I'm moving around. I'm people watching. I'm looking at all this other stuff. Like my senses are on like 10,000. So I can't connect with God and everybody's screaming and people are dancing and drums is going mad loud. Like I can't connect with that. It's hard. And so I would start to like literally run. And the church space that I was in was really small. It's like I think it was like 50 members at its peak. And I would go in the corner where the sound booth was. I would go in different offices. I would go in the kitchen. I would hide way in the back. Because it was like where the sanctuary was, and there's like this little hallway. I'd be in the corner, like by the emergency exit. Like I would find so many ways to not be seen because I didn't want to, because disrupting worship was more important than figuring out how can I get to God intimately. I couldn't figure it out. So because the concern was you not doing what we doing, and because you not doing what we doing, you are being disobedient and God's not pleased, and you know, you're not about to get this stuff that you want, or you're not about to get these prophetic words. They're not gonna come to pass because you are disrupting the church space. What do you do? So I'm stuck. But what I've learned is that, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And that's my out. That is my out. That has been my out in this season. My favorite name for God is Elroy. I'm going to get it tatted on me somewhere, but Elroy, if you don't know, it means like the God who sees. And one of the things that the Lord ministered to me was that he sees me. And what he's done is he's put people around me that see me. My wife sees me. My friends see me. My community sees me. My children see me. The people that I love and care about, they see me. My community, my fan base, you guys that are super consistent in just like supporting me and showing up, like y'all see me. And I appreciate that in a way that I'm going to be very intentional about communicating going forward, because I really do appreciate it. I've been doing this for a long time. And so, man, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and I've shared this on several different occasions, I feel like my life is worship. Worship is not this like segregated amount of time. It's not 20 minutes before the pastor comes up and speaks. From the second I wake up to the time I go to bed, it is worship. What I do, how I steward my time is worship unto God. How I perform in my job is worship unto God. What I put in my body is worship unto God. How I treat people is worship unto God. How I rap and how I write is worship unto God. My rapidy raps do not have to be worship in nature for them to honor God. If they are done in excellence, that is worship. Thank God for things, for resources like Soul Surplus. Shout out to Wes, Swoop, shout out to Joel, that whole team. Their meditation tracks, like within their app, have reconnected my early morning devotional time with the Lord. Because I don't know what the music does. I have no idea what it does, but it allows me to be pointed and focused on whatever's in front of me. And I feel clear, and I feel like I hear God, and I feel like I can communicate with him in the way that I am created to communicate with God. And I feel and experience him with Soul Surplus as an aid. And those meditation tracks are very subtle. They're very quiet, because I'm quiet. I'm long-winded, but I'm quiet. If you ever go to my house, oh wait, well, hold up. What happened? Uh-oh. Oh, the battery died. Oh, shoot. Okay. All right, let's find this. Oh, okay. Dang. The battery died. All right, hold up. Hold up. Can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me? I know, it's crazy. All right, I'm coming. I am coming back. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so y'all can hear me. All right, hold up. I'm swapping out my cameras because the camera didn't overheat. The battery died. My dumb behind didn't charge this camera. I thought I did. So let me stop for a second. Okay. Are we good? Can y'all hear me? Y'all hear me? Y'all see me? We good? Man, I lost everybody. I had a nice little crowd. It's all good. All right, I'm good. I know, man. I know. I didn't check the battery. My bad. I thought because it's connected to I thought because the camera was connected to my computer that would keep the charge. So I wasn't really tripping. But clearly that's not the case. Lesson learned. So, everybody back. Okay, cool. All right, y'all. Dang, man. I was on a roll. It's all good. It's all good. Where am I at? Yeah, I was saying I was fearfully and wonderfully made, and just learning different ways for me to worship, and like how that's enough. That's more than enough. The Lord is pleased with that. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that if that's how you experience worship, that's wrong. I believe that there are many ways to get to God consistently. Like if we're fearfully and wonderfully made and we have all these different aspects of us that make us us, there are different ways. There are many ways to get to one God. Like the road that's narrow is like having a heart towards him. But how that shows up is a whole other window. You know what I'm saying? So the other thing that I'm going to share. Oh, I was talking about being quiet. Okay. Was the LA hat intentional? No, it wasn't. Nah, I need a haircut. That was the only thing that was intentional. Was the fact that I need a haircut. What was I going to say? We're talking about being quiet. I'm done. I missed that part. It's okay. It's okay. Okay, so the second thing that I want to talk about is heavy-handed preaching. Getting flogged. Never feeling good enough to experience the goodness of God. Never. No matter what I did, what I tried to do, what I abstained from, nothing was ever good enough. The environment that I was in preached really hard. So if you go back and listen to my old music, a lot of my old music is really hard. I realized that was because a lot of us didn't know how to experience the grace of God. We didn't know. And that's because grace had never been shown to us in a practical sense from other people. We didn't know what it was like to just be accepted for who we were. Like it was very performative, the space was. I remember one time I left the church. I was like, yo, I'm burnt out. I'm not coming to church for a little bit. And I ended up stumbling on the teachings of, what was his name? His name was Tullian Chavidian. He was like Billy Graham's grandson. And at the time he was a really prominent preacher. And of course, kind of like some stuff happened. He ended up falling out of ministry or whatever. But at the time, he was really, really big into grace. And I'm listening to these sermons of his like faithfully because I'm experiencing like I'm hearing about the grace of God that covers sins, that's loving, that's inviting, that replenishes, that restores, like the power of grace. And I'm like, yo, like really? I have access to this word? And then I would go back to that space and grace teachings. And here's the other thing, like grace teachings during that time were really prominent in white church spaces. And so I would go back and I would talk about that stuff, or I would share it, and like it would get frowned upon. And, you know, the feedback that I would get was that it was watered down. It's like, yo, somebody preaching about the grace of God is watered down? Really? You know, we were at a point to where every time anybody preached, well, not anybody. No, let me take that back. Not anybody. Anytime the heavy hitters preached, if you weren't on the altar at the end of the sermon, you were considered disobedient. The word had to convict you in such a way that you had to have this Shekinah glory, will your heart and soul say yes ministry moment every week, my nigga. Every week. And it's like, yo, people falling out, people crying, giving stuff up to God. At least in their mind they are, but like, you back up here next week. Or we're in church twice a week, and you at the altar Thursday and Sunday for years, 3, 4, 5 years straight. You doing this every week. And that's the accepted response. Like, wait a minute. So did you get free in this area? Have you experienced some type of like breakthrough? And what have you done? Because here's what would happen. See, have you experienced any type of freedom? Because I tapped out. After a while, I was like, this is not the way. This is not the only way to give something to God. Sometimes giving stuff up to the Lord is through conversations. It's through community. It's through therapy. It's through changing habits. It's through abstaining from stuff. It's through all different types of things. And one thing that the church space shunned was therapy. It was one of the spaces where the pastor was the therapist. And it's weird because with me, he was like, after a while, he was like, yeah, maybe you need to go to therapy. But some of my other friends who were in the space, I would tell them like, hey, you should probably go to therapy. And they'd be like, well, pastor said I shouldn't go, or this person said I shouldn't go. Because leadership would, because I told y'all earlier that like boundaries were really bad and they were poor. So leadership would also try to serve as counselors, as therapists, psychologists, social workers. It's like, nah, nigga, you a pastor. You know what I'm saying? You're a worship leader. Like, you're not any of those things. Like, those take degrees and information and years of practice. Those aren't things that the Lord just calls you to, and you all of a sudden have all of the resources and wherewithal to operate and function in that space 100%. You can't. So what happened is they would disguise therapy sessions as discipleship. And so you'd be on the altar and you cry out and you feel like you would have this like supernatural experience with God. And then you would have a follow-up meeting with whoever the person that was assigned to you in the discipleship space. And you would like, you know, they would follow up. So, hey, you know, what happened on Sunday? What was that experience like for you? And you feel like because the space is safe that, you know, you can tell them what happened or what you're dealing with or what you're falling short in. But the thing about, you know, some small spaces, because this ain't even a church, like not even, this doesn't just apply to churches, but just in small spaces, like things get out. And so you think you've told one person, and come to find out now 4 other people who have nothing to do with your process now know your dirty laundry. And I think one of the spaces and one of the reasons because of that was because having relationships outside of that particular church bubble was frowned upon. It wasn't direct. They would use language like, well, be careful. It's like, I've lived around the world. I've seen so many things. If anything, I'm too careful. You know what I'm saying? So why do I have to be careful in this space with another Christian? Because you don't know him? You know what I'm saying? So, the problem was, and the problem with preaching hard, to get back to that, is that, my family wasn't very affirming. Like, I didn't grow up with that. So my family wasn't affirming in like real obvious ways. Like, my mom and my sister always treated me as like little brother, youngest son. So there was like oochie coochie baby, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was that kind of affirmation. My father, didn't always know how to communicate at the time, like how he felt about me or any of that stuff. So I looked to it in various ways. The only things that I was affirmed in consistently were my ability to play sports, my ability to rap, and my ability to communicate with the opposite sex, which then also leads to sex. So then I come into this church space and I want that affirmation, this emotionalism, this space is high, it's all this stuff. And I'm opening up my Bible and I'm reading these messages on grace, and I'm reading these messages on, the love of God, and these First Corinthians characteristics, 1 Corinthians 13, those characteristics of the Lord. It's not even connecting for me that I can experience that. It's not even connecting for me. So I can't even receive it. So I'm already used to the flog. I'm super hard on myself. So then when I get into an environment that's also hard on themselves, that also has, issues with their parents and, not receiving and rejection and not receiving, love in various ways, like they're going to flock to the flog too. So we all just getting flogged. And after a while, I'm like, another red flag was that I would joke and be like, oh man, this Sunday was actually encouraging. And you're like, what do you mean? What do you mean this is encouraging? Like, what do you mean? I'm not always encouraging? No, you are not always encouraging. Like, more often than not, I leave feeling like I'm never going to get right with God. Another one of the things that they used a lot, the language was very much like if then in experiencing God. And it would use scriptures like, if my people who call me by my name will turn away from their sin, then I will heal their land, right? If then. Not. And so when things would happen to me, when good things would happen to me, I would try to like track it to, okay, what was I doing right? Was I in my word? Was I praying? Was I fasting? Was I abstaining from stuff? Okay, cool. Now I can receive the blessings of God. And so then when you experience God's goodness just because he wants to do it, there always has to be a reason or something attached to it. You know what I'm saying? And that was hard to receive. Let me see where y'all at in the comments. Relationships both in and outside the church. Christians are human. Are we getting there, Jana? Also calls where you have to break your worldly CDs. Absolutely. Found in more charismatic space, the downside of real engagement with God's power is a very religious, very human fear of losing the power. Oh, let's get into that, Philip. That's a great transition, sir. All right, so Philip says, I found that in more charismatic spaces, the downside to such real engagement with God's power is a very religious, very human fear of losing that power, losing in quotation marks. It breeds service out of fear. Let's talk about the service out of fear. And this is my last thing. The gifts in that space were esteemed to no end. It was all about the gifts. You have to operate in your gift. The minute you join that space, they're immediately trying to figure out what your gift is. What is your gift? What is your gift? Do you know your fivefold ministry gift? Are you a pastor? Are you a prophet? Are you an apostle, evangelist, a teacher? What are you? Let's figure it out so we can get you trained up. And one of the things that was really esteemed out of all the gifts, because you have all the gifts, right? But like the teacher doesn't really get like the flowers. You know what I'm saying? It was the prophet. The prophet, that was the gift that you wanted. And so when the spirit of prophecy would hit the building, the way that I would posture myself just based off of the culture of the space, adding on with just my experience, just in rejection and just how I experienced life, I took receiving a prophetic word as confirmation that God saw me and that I was doing okay. Because in a lot of the prophetic spaces, the prophetic will be like, this is good. God's going to do this for you. God sees this, so he's going to reward you with this. And so when I would get that, I'm on a super high. I'm like, great. God's about to do this for me. God about to da-da-da-da-da. And when I didn't get it, it's like, man, he doesn't see me. God doesn't value me. I'm less than. I'm not doing enough to receive God's love. Something's wrong. We literally had to prophesy. Like if you were marked as a prophet, we would literally have to give that person a word. I don't have anything. Yes, you do. The Lord told me that you have a word. So let's get into the Lord told me. One thing that prophecy did was that it allowed people to avoid accountability. So if I don't like something that you did, I could tell you, well, thus saith the Lord, God, I feel like God is this. I feel like God wants to do this. I feel like God is not pleased with this. And I can't argue with it because two things. Number one, it's prophecy, which means it's from God. So this is God telling me that there's something about what I'm doing that he doesn't like. I can't talk my way through that because God knows all, sees all. Number two, when prophecy would come from certain people who were esteemed in the space, then you really couldn't question it because it comes from, a super tapped in space. And now I can't ask any questions. I just got to take it. But what it did was it allowed people to avoid accountability. Towards the end of my run and even after, like I got prophetic words in that space, and I was like, let's have a conversation, because clearly you feel a way about something you feel like I did or that I'm doing, and you don't want to directly address me because there's a lot of passive aggressive energy in the space as well. They could be direct with you, but you cannot be direct with them. Because if I'm direct with you, if they're direct with me, they are just communicating God's heart and the warning of God and, those types of things, the heavy, hard things of the Lord. When the Lord wants to smite or the Lord's not pleased or he's angry, they can communicate that. But in turn, I can't be direct with you because then I'm being disobedient. You know what I'm saying? And so you get into like really churchy terminology within the prophetic space because, prophecy is one of the things that I learned about prophecy is often in part. So I might get a word for somebody and it may just be a piece of something. And what happens is, because a lot of people who prophesy don't understand that, they try to fill in the blanks. And they're saying, and first it's like, well, all they could have heard is, all right, God wants you to write a book. And you're like, all right, I'm about to start writing a book. But God didn't say anything else other than write a book. So you thinking I'm supposed to write a book right now, not realizing that God don't want you to write a book for another 5 years, 10 years. But so what the prophet does is, in the next 30 days, the Lord is going to download a book and do all this other stuff. So now you're trying to keep up with this prophetic word that ain't all the way right. Because the prophet feels like they have to share a whole story with you. And it's like, no, all I know about is a book. I don't know anything else. And so one thing that I would get a lot of prophetic words about my music and about success. And getting prophetic words about success in spaces that are wrought with impoverished mindsets, you don't know what that's going to look like. One of the first conversations I had with two of my friends after I left the church space, and they were telling me about like what the white church space or church spaces with money, how they do things and how much money gets thrown around in there. I was shocked, because in the first like 4 years that I was there, we were barely making a $700 a month rent. So like, you mean to tell, like, what? Like, we can barely, our tithes and offerings are barely covering $700, and these other spaces are just throwing around 6 and 7 figures like it's nothing. So when I would hear things like, you know, God wants you to be successful, or God wants you to achieve, you know, God is going to do this for you. And I'd be like, all right. And I would assume, and so what's coupled with that is that, again, like I said earlier, you're kind of like shunned and told indirectly not to have relationships with people outside of that church bubble space. So in turn, when you see God is going to do it, first of all, you don't see any success. You see people crying and flailing and travailing for a job that they end up quitting 6 months later, a year later, talking about the Lord kept me out, you know, the Lord made a way out for me to get that job. And it's like, then why was you crying about it 6 months ago? It was like a big bang. Like when it says God is going to do it, the supernatural is so esteemed that like the practical is almost shunned. Like, don't come up with a plan. Don't create a budget. Don't allow other people outside of this space to help you. Do you know how many people reached out to me over the years and wanted to help me with my music career? And I dubbed the relationship because I thought that God was going to do it. Do you know who reached out to me? Do you know the types of relationships that people were wanting to create with me? So then when I dub the relationship and I see them move on and that thing becomes really, really successful with another rapper, and I'm sitting here like, well, God is going to do it. God is going to do it. He wanted to do it 10 years ago. And you was waiting on this big bang when the big bang was a DM. When the big bang was an @ on Twitter. The big bang was a follow. The big bang was somebody showing up to a random show that I had. The big bang was a fan that has a connection to an investor, or to some money, or to a door. And they just want to see me win. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's clear that I have influence. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talk about influencers, and it's like the difference. Look, man, I don't want my influence all the time. I don't want you to always wear the same clothes as me. It's one of the reasons why I'm thinking about shutting down model ministry. I don't want Like I want some things for me. I don't want to be influential in so many. I see my thumbprint in so many spaces. And you know what that does, to be honest with you? That touches on rejection and feeling like I'm not good enough. Like, oh man, why am I influencing these people? Like I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Like those are things that I'm still working through. But my influence only counted, and it was only measured by how many people I brought to church, or how many people did I evangelize to and get saved. Nothing else. And so there's so many people who wanted to have relationship with me outside of what I just said earlier about, people wanting to help me or whatever. Just good people who wanted to have relationship with me. And I'm already kind of, like I shared earlier, like I'm kind of, standoffish. But I also had a hard time developing real relationship with people because I wasn't, unless I saw there was an opportunity there to minister to them, or, be it if they're either a believer, and maybe they're a younger believer, somebody that I can mentor and disciple, or if it's a non-believer, somebody that I can bring into Christ. Nobody else. No other mentor relationships, no other spiritual fathers, and definitely no other peer relationships. Because the gifts were esteemed and the emphasis was on church. So I don't even know how to be a friend without always having to operate in my gift. I don't know how to take that head off and just be your friend. Or I'm afraid that I'm going to have to do something for you, or pray for you in some way, or lay hands on you in some way, or respond to this real deep, heavy need. And I still have this poverty mindset myself. Like, what I'm going to give you? I don't even have this myself. What are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So I always felt this need to perform and exercise my gifts. And in turn, I didn't connect with people, not realizing that there was a great work that God wanted to do with me through relationships, through people. And I wish I had the language back then that I have now, because I would have been able to advocate for myself way sooner. And it would have been easier for me to say no and set that boundary and likely leave the space. And in turn, I don't think that this climb back up would be as in depth as it is now. Because I'm going through a lot of mud, and I'm losing lifelong relationships because of this. People that I introduced to that space, in turn, get wrapped up in the space. And when I begin to question the space, I become an enemy of the space. And our relationship doesn't matter. It's just the fact that I question the space. And now nothing else can be achieved until I repent. So that's all I wanted to share tonight. That's a lot, because there's way more context to all of those things. I'm going to go through the chat real quick. And let me see. Where y'all at? Okay, here we go. All right, Jaden said, what kept me coming to church at one point was service to it, not Jesus, not community. There were so many people that were loyal because it was a family church. There were so many people who were loyal to the family relationships that they couldn't see that the time was up in the space. Or they couldn't see the toxicity or the other things that existed in the space, because the loyalty was to the space and nothing else. And And now your loyalty is now to a person, to a leader, or your loyalty is now to an idea or a prophetic word. You know what I'm saying? God is going to do this, and your role in this is that. And now you're like, man, I can't leave, because if I leave this space, then I'm disobeying God. And I had to get real radical and just be like, God, if I'm leaving, I'm just going to disappoint you. I'm just going to disobey you. But come to find out, it was what I was supposed to do long ago. What Philip say? Closed mouths don't get fed. Do something new to get something new, etc. All manipulative ways of getting folks to respond in a certain kind of way that may or may not even be real to you. That is a fact. They would emphasize that this is your place of assignment, and that is where power is found 100%. The Lord told me is gaslighting. What is gaslighting? Dudes didn't know how to affirm in normal ways. We had to have God be the middleman for our emotional support. The altar is great, but we were never meant to replace long-term restoration with moments. Big facts. Listen, long-term restoration, sanctification. And one of the things that came, one of the mantras that came across the house that's true is that sanctification is a lifelong process. There's always going to be something that you will have to shore up. But I think what that did was that opened up doors for like you to always feel like you were never going to be at a place, you were never going to be good enough. So understanding, and let me share this with y'all, something that I've done, and I want to do a video on this, but it's kind of like, to me, it's radical. When I said earlier that I was like unraveling after I left the space, one of the things that I did, y'all, was like, I leaned more into me, into myself, more than I ever have. My concern, I relied on my instincts and my discernment. And what I did was a lot of things that I wanted to do and a lot of thoughts that I had, I would pursue those things in safe spaces. I found great community that allowed me to ask questions and get things off my chest. Because I think that how a lot of sin happens is that people feel like they have to hide, and the thought of it, it's almost like, what's the Edgar Allan Poe poem? The Raven. Like there's literally like this heart underneath the floorboards that's like driving you crazy because you can't do anything about it. And it just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And I feel like that's what like in many of our urges are. But to just be like, nah, this is how I feel right now. And to explore that and communicate that and not have to worry about if this other person or these people think that I'm still saved or not. The desire or the thought would immediately go away after I communicated it. It's like, oh, okay. And what that did was that created a clear divide for me. So now I know who is God and who I am. I have a better sense of self than I've ever had in my maybe since I was a kid, if not ever. I know who I am more than I ever have. And what that's done is that's allowed me to know who God is and what I can't do. Now I know my limitations. This is where I can believe God. Because when you're in those types of church spaces, you get in God's way because the performative side has you, whether you know it or not, you feel like you got to do all of the things in order to get whatever God has for you. And sometimes it's like, no, you just got to sit down. Or you just have to, this is where I'm at right now. I just feel like I have to be consistent. Because consistency is a struggle for me. I just got to be consistent. I got to keep uploading these videos. I got to figure out a way to, because if it was up to me, like I wouldn't have done any of this stuff until I got the right camera, the right light, the right background lighting, all this stuff, the overlay. And I'm like, I just feel like the Lord is like, no, start, just do it. Just do it. And we'll figure it out in real time. So now I'm believing God for my consistency. Like, okay, Lord, I need to be consistent because I know on the other side of this consistency is the success that's just like gnawing at my back. You know what I'm saying? Okay, where we at? Lack of accountability plus prophetic words leans to a cultish allegiance. That discernment, knowing his word for yourself, is so necessary. Absolutely. Say, I know of a church that cleared 5 figures or more in a live stream project that they only used twice, bruh. Let's see. We mysticize stuff to the point we don't take practical, no-brainer stuff seriously. Listen, y'all, the supernatural is in the practicality is in the supernatural. It is supernatural. It is a supernatural thing to be consistent. It is a supernatural thing to be empathetic, to be present. Like, supernatural ain't gotta be Benny Hinn, I take my jacket off and flail it at you and everybody falls on the floor. Supernatural is doing things that I know I'm not good at, but I have a power that is greater than mine, that's greater than myself, that is allowing me to do this. And I've seen this, and I'm like, yo, I said it on 40 days. I don't need another word. I need manifestation of what I've already heard. I don't need you to tell me what the Lord says. Like, I need the Lord to show up and help me do this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I need the Lord to help me, prepare financially. How do I set a budget up for this? What relationships do I need to have to do this? What do I need to invest in? You know what I'm saying? That's supernatural. Outcomes are a terrible indicator of obedience. Absolutely. JB said, but you be so caught up in using your gift, you don't even know you're using it wrong. You can manipulate your gift so much, it becomes a tool of manipulation. Facts. Language is powerful. Same with having known what I known back then. Performance love, only love when performing. That's so far from God's love definition. Absolutely. It is a factory. It's absolutely a factory. Prophecy is not manipulative and controlling. Facts. Thanks for sharing. Grateful to hear you navigating this without throwing Jesus out of the picture. 100%. That's supernatural. That's supernatural. That's supernatural. To have all these experiences that I see other people being turned away, I don't want nothing to do with Jesus, church. We saw so many people come out of quarantine and out of the pandemic, no longer Christian at all. The fact that the Lord kept me through this is a miracle. Facts. So, love to hear this whole convo. Came late. I'm gonna, Mr. Shannon, this'll be, I don't know how it's going to work because some of this stuff messed up. I messed up a couple of times, but I'm going to have it on demand and I'm going to cut it up during the week and re-upload it from videos. So subscribe to my YouTube. Everybody who's here, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube, please do so. I'm trying to get this space monetized. This is long overdue. Prophecy in some spaces is a manipulative tool to have people question themselves. Facts. Yeah, absolutely. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. I like to keep these between an hour. Again, if you're watching this on ArmandWakeUp.com, sign up for the mailing list. I try to drop now. Wednesdays have become Mondays, so I drop in the morning there. Also, follow me on Instagram. I guess there's a way at Armand Wake Up. I guess there's a way to mark your favorites, right? Mark me as your favorite. Because that's the medium that I like to communicate the most through. And I know Instagram is trash for a lot of people, but it's my favorite platform. I hate TikTok. Twitter is very limiting because of the character count. I get 0 engagement on Facebook. Instagram is the best place, and I'm trying to turn YouTube into another space as well. I'm also trying to figure out if I need to do a Discord, or I'm trying to figure out something that is a dedicated space for Armand Wake Up stuff. So you'll know that through the newsletter. So sign up there, subscribe to my YouTube, please, 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 please. I think we're real close to 2K. I think I just hit 1900 or something like that. And, shut up, Cash. And and I want to thank you guys so much for being here. This was, I can't lie, like I was super nervous to communicate this, and it was literally the Spirit of the Lord and my wife that like really helped me figure out what to share and how to share it. So I'm just really grateful for that. I'm grateful for my community, my online community, my digital space. Grateful for you guys. Again, we're gonna, you know what though? How about this? Let me ask y'all a question real quick. If I was to have a follow-up live, but like I invited some of you guys up to talk about your experiences and some of the wisdom that y'all have, either leave an press 1 in the comments if you would be open to being a part of that conversation. Because what I'm trying to do, I don't want this to be a monolithic experience. Like, I'm gonna create the space, but I want other people to be a part of the space. So if you are willing to share your experience, share what you've learned, I will have a follow-up where I'll invite people up, maybe 1 at a time, 2 at a time, and just let y'all get y'all bars off. Because, like Kelly said, you guys was dropping mad gems in the comments like all night, and that was really dope. So I'm going to screenshot this. I'm going to let y'all get these off for a second. So Shane, I see you. JB, I see you. Trenton, I see you. Bill, I see you. Jeremy, I see you. Kellis, I see you. Philip, I see you. Okay. Big bet. So I will reach out to all of you guys individually. I'm going to try to figure out what the next steps are with that. If y'all have any ideas, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram. Y'all know that's where I be at. I talk to most of y'all through that medium anyway. And so you guys have a great night. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to leave this up, and then I'm going to split this up and put it on my YouTube. So it'll be up in the coming days. Hopefully I'll be able to get that done tomorrow, and we'll go from there. So you guys have a great night. Appreciate you guys. Until next time.